In the last 2 weeks, our emergency fund, or as I like to call it, our freedom fund, has saved us over $2,000. Not because life went wrong, but because we were ready for life to happen. First, our pool vacuum. Our dog chewed up the cord for it, and we were out of a pool vacuum. Was this an emergency? Not necessarily. There wasn't any reason not to use the emergency fund. So we did. We went and bought one on Amazon for $500, this one here. Then, a few days later, our AC stops working. My wife comes home and she goes, "It is really hot in here." And I'm like, now that you mention it, it is. Our AC was set on 73 and it was over 80 outside. So we called the AC repairman. He comes out, looks at it the next day, and it's a capacitor that has to be changed. This expense wound up being a little over $600 because we also went to Walmart and bought a AC to put in the bedroom to help us sleep better at night, a window unit. So with those two things involved, it was a little over $200 for the AC unit and then $400 to get the AC repaired for a little over $600. This was an emergency. So now between the two, we're at $1,100. Now we put it on a credit card, but we had the cash in the emergency fund to pay it off. Had we not, it would have just been sitting there on the emergency fund, on the credit card, and we would have went right back into a debt pay down where we're having to pay payments on a credit card with interest charge and all of that. We're saved on those two. We put the payment on the credit card, we pay the payment off, and we're done. Now we have to build back up our emergency fund. We have funds directed toward car maintenance. It's one of our budgeted items in our budget. So we turn on the payback period for the freedom fund. We're trying to put more money back in to that fund so that should another emergency happen, we can cover it. When I take the car in, I prepay for the service ahead of time, for oil change, tire rotation, and all that. Well, they call me and they say, "Hey, your brake pads and your rotors need to be changed." How much is it going to be? $1,200 was the quote. So I was like, okay, we don't have that because we didn't have any emergency fund left at this time. I said, okay, we're going to pass on it for this time because I just can't afford it. Then I go do some research. I'm thinking about this $1,200. I'm like, I'm going to go see how much I can buy the parts for at Auto Parts or AutoZone because I've changed brakes before. So I'm capable of doing that. Most people are. You can watch a YouTube video and learn how. So I look it up, anywhere between $250 and $350 depending on what kind I want to buy. So we'll just go ballpark $300. I can buy the brake pads for $300 and put them on myself and save $900. I was thinking about this. Now, had we had the emergency fund, this whole conversation would have been different. You really have to think about every expenditure. Had we had the emergency fund, I would have probably been like, okay, go ahead, and then we would have paid it back. The advantage of us not having that emergency fund at this time was that it caused me to think more about it. Even if it takes me all day long, that's saving me $900. On the flip side, I would have to make over $1,000 in a day to pay for the $900. So if you make more than $1,000 at your job, then it makes sense to pay for somebody to have it, or in a day, whether you have a job or run a business. But if you don't, it makes sense to even take a whole day if it takes it and do the repair yourself. Now, I'm not talking about doing something major like changing the transmission or something if you don't know what you're doing. You can do things like simple oil changes and stuff yourself if you know what you're doing. The reason I do the oil changes is actually cheaper for me to get the oil change done through the mechanic that I use than it is for me to go buy the stuff myself because they get a better rate and I have a discount with them through, we have a softball card, which is a discount card that we have here in our local county that gets me a discount to where I can do it with them cheaper than I can go do it on my own with the time involvement and everything calculated in. So the core lesson on this is your emergency fund doesn't just protect you, it gives you options. So when you have something come up in life, you have the ability to pay for that thing or the decision to make of how you're going to handle it. So moving forward, I'm going to think more about each thing before I pay for it. The AC repair, I'm not trying that on my own. I had no idea what was going on. Come to find out, like I said, it was a capacitor, and I don't want to deal with changing a capacitor or anything because I don't know anything about HVAC. So that, I'm paying somebody to do it. When it comes to having choices, being able to sleep at night and have that burden taken off, this is why we have an emergency fund. So hopefully you've learned something from this. And if you don't have an emergency fund, I suggest building one. Thank you for watching the video. If you're interested in eliminating your debt, make sure to click the link in the bio.